Welcome to What's Going On, the weekly podcast and videocast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of What's Going On. I'm Pastor Katie here at First United Methodist, and I'm glad you could join me for this episode. In this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the sermon series that we're finishing up this week. We're going to talk about opportunities in the life of the church and why that matters, and anything else that comes to my mind, because I don't write these things down. One of the comments that I get a lot is there's a difference between the Sunday and Wednesday sermons and these podcasts, that the way that I communicate is a little bit differently. And the answer is that's absolutely true, because when I'm preaching the sermon, I'm very conscious about what I'm saying. I've planned it out. I've written it out word for word, basically. I've got the slides behind me, where these are a lot more off the cuff. It's not that I don't care about them as much, but I also want you to know what's going on. I mean, that's why we titled it What's Going On. But also that you get a very, when you're listening to the podcast, you're listening to what is really on my mind, what is really kind of at the forefront of what's happening this week, and and maybe my reasoning and thoughts behind things. It's not planned out, so you know that it's very much what I really think and what I really feel. And not to say that my sermons aren't, but those are much more crafted, because I want to be very intentional when I'm preaching from the pulpit, that I am doing that space and that time and that work justice. I don't, preaching is a very sacred thing, because when people are listening to me, they're listening for God's word to speak through me. Where this, I don't feel like there's that same kind of pressure. So you're getting a lot more, this is how my brain really works kind of a deal. So I hope that you're enjoying that. I hope that you find this useful and informative, and make sure that you're telling people about it. We have it both on video version, so you can watch it, or we have a podcast version, and so you can just put it in your podcast rotation. And again, the other thing to note is that it's not going to be coming out on Wednesdays anymore. It's going to be coming out later in the week, and that's just because of our Wednesday service, because now I have to prep for my sermon the first half of the week when I normally would be recording the podcast. So I have it done by Wednesday. This week with Labor Day in there, everything got really crunched, and I had very little time to get things done. But with God, there is a way. And so it happened. And our Wednesday service this week was our potluck, and we had fourth grade Bible. We gave away one of our fourth grade Bibles. We're going to be doing more on Sunday. And I had a really good question last night that someone asked, and so I want to talk about that. And that is, what comes first, Wednesday or Sunday? And the answer is Wednesday. The way that I've chosen to set this up, and I asked some other pastors who have a Wednesday service as well, how do you do that? Do you do Sunday first? Do you do Wednesday first? And a lot of them do Wednesday first. And so I decided to adopt that schedule as well. So that means when you come on Wednesday, you're the first to hear a sermon, and then I will preach it again on Sundays. That also means, so I also plan it that way. So communion, I do the first Sunday of the month, but the Wednesday before that is the same service for me. And so communion sometimes will land on the last Wednesday of a month. It just is whenever the Wednesday is before the first Sunday, but the schedule goes Wednesday, Sunday. So if you're going to miss a Sunday, you have to go the Wednesday before to catch that sermon. It's not like, oh, I just didn't get up this weekend, I'll just hear it on Wednesday, because we'll be moving on Wednesday to a new series or a new sermon. So that is something to be mindful of. So this Wednesday, we finished up our Plugged In series for the Wednesday night people, and this coming Sunday, we'll finish it up for our Sunday people. And it's just been a very short series, 3 weeks, and after our summer long series, it feels very weird to already be wrapping it up, but I thought it was a great reminder for all of us as we start a new school year, as we start kind of back into the swing of fall schedules, that it's important what we plug into and what we give our time and what we give our energy, and then also what is giving us energy, what is giving us life, and making sure that we are staying connected to those things, because there's so much out there that wants something from us. There's so much that is demanding our time, that is demanding our energy, that is demanding our attention. And all of that takes things from us. It takes energy. It takes, you know, all of the things. And so what do you have in your schedule that gives something to you? And that's one of the things we've been kind of trying to talk about, is that church isn't something that should just be another thing on your schedule that takes. It should be a thing that gives you something, that attendance in worship is for your benefit. It is to fill your soul, is to give your spirit some energy, some rejuvenation, and that's needed. Sometimes, again, I talked a little bit about how, like, we can be good about tending to our physical health, and I'm not great about that, but I'm working on it. Going to the gym, I signed up for a membership. I'm doing the classes. I'm struggling again, but I'm going to do it because it's important. Physical health is a key ingredient to a happy, healthy, balanced life, and I want that. Another part of that is our mental health. What are we doing to care for our mental health? And when we overschedule ourselves, when we go, our mental health will suffer, because we're not giving ourselves time to rest. We're not giving ourselves time to process. We're not giving ourselves time to really pick and choose the things that matter to us, and that matters in our life, that we pattern and create a life that reflects who we are and reflects what we want and what our values are. And if we let everybody else determine who we're going to be and say, this is what you need to do with your life, it's going to make us unhappy. It's going to make our mental health deteriorate. And so, again, that's a big piece of it. But the other one that often people neglect is your spiritual health. If you are, like, on top of going to the gym and keeping your body healthy and eating the right things and making sure you're moving, and then you're also tending to your mental health, however that looks for you, and there's still something missing, it's probably because you're not attending to your spiritual health. You're not attending to the needs of your soul. And that is really, I mean, again, I'm a pastor, so I'm going to say this, but it's the most important one. Your physical body, even if you keep it in peak condition, will someday pass away. Your mind, even if you keep it in peak condition, will someday pass away. But your soul will not. Your soul is eternal. And so, to me, it seems like that is the thing you really need to make sure you're attending to. That is the thing that you need to make sure is plugged in to its source, so that it can be healthy, that it can have a good life, that it can do the work that it's meant to do, which is to help you have meaning and purpose and value that's intrinsic to you, things that people can't take away from you. And I think too often we neglect that. I think there's a lot of people that will say, that's not even a real thing. And the reality is they're missing out. They're missing out on a full life. They're missing out on the fullness of God. They're missing out on what life can be. And they will spend their whole life trying to chase things down, trying to create meaning out of things that were never meant or designed to do that. And we see that a lot, where people build their life on something, on a concept, on an idea. Let's say you are good at sports, and so you build your life on this identity that you are going to be, a professional athlete, and then you have an injury, and it takes that identity away from you, and then that's all you have, right? And so then what do you have left? Who are you then? And because that person has spent so much of their time building on their physical, this is what's most important. I need to spend all of my time on my physical health. I need to spend all of my time on this one aspect of my life, and they neglect the other aspects. if that part goes away, which it very easily can, what do you have left? So it's so important that we keep our life balanced, that we tend to all of these things that matter, that we are plugged into the things that give us life, all of the things that give us life, and that we're tending to all of them. And it's very easy to get out of whack. It's very easy to put so much into one thing, because it will tell you that it's the most important thing. And I know that you're like, but Pastor Katie, that's all that you're doing too. You're the pastor, so you're going to tell us this is the most important thing. And when I go to the doctor, they're going to tell me this is the most important thing. And when I go to my counselor, they're going to tell me this is the most important thing. They all are important. But again, I'm going to go back to and physical health is important. Don't get me wrong. My mother was in the hospital this week, and that was one of the things she told me, because she struggled. She's had chronic illnesses her whole life. And she says, Katie, when people say that if you don't have your health, you don't have anything, like, she goes, they mean it. Like, that's real. Like, physical health is important. You need to be paying attention to that. You need to be caring for your body. But again, things happen. My mom had a chronic illness that showed up like in her 40s. You have no way of planning for that. And so making sure that in those times when that thing is taking up so much mental space, if that thing's taking up so much of your energy, are these other things solid? Or have you neglected those because you just assume it'll be there? I feel like I'm making less sense as I talk more about it. But again, what I care about is you. What I care about is that you have a life that God intends for you, and God wants the best for you. And so that's what I want as well. And I truly believe that if you're not tending to your spiritual self, you're not going to have the best life for you. It's just not going to happen. And that's what I want for you. And so being a part of this community, making sure that you are connected to Christ, that you are in that relationship, that you are following after Jesus as your Lord, as your teacher, that you are a follower of Christ, that you are a disciple, that is going to give you the life that you were made for. And then the third thing, the thing that either you've already heard me talk about or you're going to hear me talk about, is a key ingredient of discipleship, a key ingredient of your spiritual life. If you want that to grow and mature and to be the kind of spiritual life that transforms your life and that can transform others' lives, it needs to include service. It needs to include living for others, doing for others, being plugged in for others. And we believe in that very strongly in the church. That is in our mission statement, that we grow disciples of Jesus Christ and equip them for ministry in the world. And that equip for ministry in the world is that piece that we're ending this series with, that it is important for your own spiritual health to do things for others. Because if you only ever live your life for how does it benefit me, that is a selfish life. And that is not a life that God has intended for you. That's not a life that Jesus modeled for us. Our lives are meant to be, you do your mental health for your sake, you do your physical health for your sake and for the sake of your family, and your spiritual health you do for your sake, but you do for others for your sake. Jesus, then the last night that he had with his disciples before he died, he taught them they need to serve each other. They need to wash each other's feet. They need to love each other. He says, that's how you're going to know you're my disciples. That's how other people will know that you belong to me. Not by what you profess, not by what you preach, but by what you're doing and how you're serving and how you're loving and how you're meeting people in their need. That's how people are going to know that this church is a real church, that this church can change lives, is because they will see us living that out. They will see us in the community serving in the name of Christ. They will see us when they come in the doors serving one another and not primarily here to be served. Again, when someone comes in for the first time, we are here to serve them. We are here to love them. We are here to meet them in their need. But there comes a point where then it is our turn. And I've talked about it before. I mean, I'm a broken record because I feel like the lessons that we need to learn constantly. And I say that from my own experience. I need to constantly be learning these things. And my favorite gospel story is a story of Jesus healing a paralytic. And it was a man who was on a mat. He couldn't walk. And so 4 of his friends pick up the mat and they carry him onto the roof where Jesus was teaching. And they cut a hole in the roof and they lower the man down on the mat in front of Jesus at his feet. And Jesus says, because of their faith, you are healed. Get up and walk. Actually, Jesus says you are forgiven. And that really made some people mad. And then so that you know that I can forgive sins, get up and walk. But that piece of, because of their faith, you've been healed. I think to me, that is the perfect illustration of what the church is. Sometimes we are the man on the mat. Sometimes we are the one in need, and the church needs to come around us and love and support us and meet our needs and help us get to Jesus so that we can be healed. And that's often how we begin that journey of faith, is that we come in need to be at the feet of Jesus. Maybe we don't know how to get there. Maybe we can't get there on our own. And so we rely on others to help us. But here's the reality. More often than not, we need to be the people who are carrying the mat. We need to be the people who are finding a way to get this other person to Jesus. We need to be the ones cutting the hole in the roof and having the faith that Jesus can heal them. And that is what it means to be the church, because more often than not, you are going to be called on to carry the mat. You are not always the person on the mat. And if we have a church filled with people that understand the church as only showing up when I have a need, we won't have anyone that can carry the mat. And we won't have anyone that can help bring people to Jesus. And so it's more important that as disciples, we are the people bringing those in need to the feet of Jesus. That's what's important. That's what it means to be the church. And so when we talk about that you need to serve, that you need to love each other, that you need to meet people in their needs, that's what we're talking about, because real faith, that's mature faith. Baby faith, that's a baby faith. Sounds like I'm saying baby face. Paul talks about being an infant in your faith and being new to the faith. And there's nothing wrong with being new to the faith. We rejoice over that. And that is what that looks like, is looking to others. What does it mean to come to Jesus? How do I do that? Can you show me? And the more that you learn to do that, then you get to turn around and show someone else. You get to turn around and help someone else. That is how we grow and mature in our faith. That is how we equip people. That's how we make disciples. And so in the church, we want to give you as many opportunities as we can to help you make that transition from a faith that is about, how are you going to meet my needs? How are you going to help me? To then, thank you, God, for helping me. How do I now do this for someone else? How do I now help in doing that work for someone else? And that looks like I said, when you come into the church building, there's a lot of opportunities to help serve, to help make it possible for people to meet Christ. And that is, again, anything from greeting to ushering. We didn't have any ushers in our Wednesday night service. We had 70 some people in the service and no ushers. That doesn't seem like that should be that way. Again, a lot of the things that God asks us to do are not terribly difficult things. You just have to say yes. You just have to be willing. It wasn't hard for those men to pick up a corner of the mat. They just had to be willing. They had to see it, and they had to say yes to that opportunity to serve. We also have things that our mission committee has been putting out. opportunities to serve in the community, to help bring people in who do not know Christ, to meet them in their needs. The one I'm most excited about is our Loads of Love ministry that we have partnered with Trinity Lutheran Church and the UCC Church. The three of our churches have come together so that every Tuesday night, people can get their laundry done for free in our community. Our next time for serving is Tuesday the 20th, and we need your help. We have no one signed up for that. There's 2 shifts, so that's an hour and a half commitment, and it's not difficult work, but it's work that needs to be done. It's work that meets the needs of our community. The last time that we did that one, they actually, we have a certain amount of money that we kind of plan for based on what we've known in the past of how many people typically come to utilize that ministry. And the last time we served, they ran out of money. They had to go get more because there were so many people in need. There were so many people. The harvest was ripe. And so if you want to see God at work, if you want to have a God moment, that is a great way to do it. If you are like, Pastor Katie, I would be happy to greet or usher. I never know who to tell that I would be willing to do that. You can tell me, come to the office, call the church and say, hey, put me down. And then you just come early. And if you've never done it before, just let me know and we'll tell you what you need to do. It's not hard. Again, none of this is hard. It just needs to be done. And it's your job to figure out, what is God asking you to do? What does that first step into a life of service look like for you? When Jesus modeled servant behavior for his disciples, it was by washing their feet. Now, it was a gross job, but it wasn't a hard job. Service doesn't have to be difficult. It has to be a part of our faith, because otherwise we become so focused on ourselves and we lose sight of what Christ has called us to do. Christ came to this world not for his sake, but for ours. And then he called us to follow him and to do as he did, which means that our life cannot just be for ourselves, but that we give of ourselves for others. And that's how our faith grows. And so that's what I wanted us to get to in this series, and hopefully if you haven't heard it and you're hearing this first Sunday, you have a little sense of where I'm going with it, and maybe you can already plan for where you want to plug into the church. If you've already been plugged in, if you're doing all the things, God bless you. If you're doing all the things, I'm concerned on the other side that I don't want you to get burned out. And so really plug into the things that matter most. Where's the service that is closest to your heart, or that you really love, and it doesn't feel like work, but it feels like a joy and a privilege to get to do. Moving on, we're going to, throughout this year, I'm doing something a little different. I'm challenging myself and preaching a little differently. We're going to see how it goes. I'm kind of excited about it. I'm kind of scared about it. But it's kind of based off the idea of God moments and looking for God and seeing how our Christian teachings and values show up everywhere. If you have eyes to see it, you can see it. And also being able to connect our faith to more than just Sunday mornings. I think that's something that is a key to having a strong faith life, is that we connect our faith to more than just, what am I doing with, when I just show up to worship, when I'm sitting in the church building. And so we're going to do a series throughout the year. It's going to be 2 or 3 weeks here and there when we're going between different longer series, or called Finding Faith In. And the first 2 we're going to be doing starting this coming Wednesday. And this first one is just 2 weeks, and it's Finding Faith in Classic Children's Literature. As you know, I'm a mom, and my kids are 5 and under. And one of the things we've been doing this year is reading a lot of books, because the community library has a program called 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten. And we're going to do it. Ben is in junior kindergarten this year, so we've got until next September to get 1,000 books for him. Although we're in the 400s right now, so we're doing pretty good. But it means that I read a lot of children's books, and some are silly, some are pretty simple books, but some are like profound. And I have moments where I'm just like, oh, that'll preach. That'll preach. Oh my goodness. And so I started thinking about that and going, well, maybe I should preach on it. Maybe I should draw out these themes so that if you are in this stage of life like me, when you're reading children's books, then you can talk to your kids about how this reflects what we learn in church. This reflects something that Jesus taught. And then every time you read that, you've now connected that book to Christ. Maybe you have grandchildren. And then, again, I've read hundreds of books this year. I'm like, how am I ever going to choose? So I decided to try to pick 2 books that I think are classic literature. And I kind of Googled it to make sure that it's not like just because I knew them as a kid. And ones that I felt that way, that there's something in this book that really connects with scripture, that really is teaching the same lesson. And so we're going to be doing The Velveteen Rabbit and The Little Engine That Could. And I'm so excited about that. The Velveteen Rabbit was one of my favorite books as a kid. My godmother gave me that book along with a stuffed velveteen rabbit that I had growing up. And if you've never read that book before, we'll read it in the service. But it tugs at the heartstrings. I'm just going to warn you, it tugs at the heartstrings. I'm going to be preaching that one on the Wednesday night service. But on the Sunday morning service, I'm going to be out of town. And so we have a guest preacher coming in, Reverend Dane Zacherson, who that name might be familiar to you because once upon a time, he was the associate pastor here. And he has agreed to come and preach the Sunday service on the Velveteen Rabbit. And he's so excited because when I was visiting with him, this was also one of his favorite books. And so that also tells me that it's not just me that likes it or knows about it. And so if you ever are like, again, I thank the people that came to Wednesday night service this week, that just to see what it is. If you didn't come this week, I would say next Wednesday would be a great one to come to because you'll hear me preach it. And then you could come back on Sunday and hear how Dane preaches this and what he pulls out of the story. Because again, there's not just one lesson in here. There's not just one connection. And so that would be one where you could get 2 different takes on the same story and how it connects with scripture. And then again, read that to your kids, read it to your grandkids, read it to your godchildren, whoever, and be able to connect those things. And then the following week, we'll be doing The Little Engine That Could. And I know that's a classic. And so again, I'm excited about that. And then we'll move on in October. We're going to be doing a series called Defying Gravity. It has nothing to do with the musical Wicked. If you are like me and that those 2 words together for you, that means a song. We're not talking about that. We're going to be talking about escaping kind of the chains and the bondage that money can have on us, and debt and things like that. I think it's really important for us to have a healthy relationship with our money, just like I talked about before, having a healthy relationship with our body and our mind and our spirit. One of the things that easily enslaves us is money and the love of money and the pursuit of money. And so we're going to be spending some time talking about what that means and how to have a healthy relationship with it and having some good practices around that. So lots of good things coming up. If you didn't catch it already, Soup Kitchen is coming back in October. And in the newsletter that you got this week, there is a slip asking how you're going to help with that. Not if you're going to help. I want to notice the difference. How are you going to help? How are you going to serve? Because again, when we do things as the church, we want to do them as the whole church, and we want everybody to be a part of it, because that's how we do our mission and ministry in the world, is together. We are better together. We can do hard things. All right. I feel like I've probably talked enough on this episode. As always, if you ever have questions about anything, if you'd like to talk about anything, please let me know. I would love to visit with you and love to get to know you more. And until next time, God bless. Thank you for joining us on this episode of What's Going On, a video and audio podcast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota. We'd love to have you join us for worship on Sundays, and we have two options available. 9 a.m. is our contemporary service, and 10:30 a.m. is our traditional service. You can find those online as well at our website, www.firstumcyankton.org, or on YouTube.